Bluesy soloing is the most difficult to fake, if you will. Some of my favorite blues guitar players like Robin Ford or Stevie Ray Vaughan, guys like that, have the ability to dial in the dynamic floor and the ceiling all with one phrase. So there's different ways to approach blues soloing. I'm going to kind of take some snippets of some of my favorite blues guitar players and how they approach solos and kind of try and build in my own approach too, and see if I can connect the dots for you if you're wondering about how to kind of spice up your blues playing or just have a different perspective. So that kind of noodling that I was just doing, I think is kind of my personal style of blues guitar, which is definitely on the more soulful side. I'm not saying I'm a soulful guitar player, but I'm drawn to that type of soulful guitar playing where it's not too busy and it's really expressive. What comes out of my fingers when I start to play any kind of bluesy stuff is generally low gain and a lot of bends and feel and phrasing, as opposed to the more traditional I love doing that too, but I think the approach, literally the approach to a blues solo starts in the beginning, and that will dictate where your dynamic begins, and then from there it's really kind of dependent on the song that's happening behind you, you know, the musicians, what they're doing. But I think the first statement of your guitar solo is really going to dictate what kind of guitar solo it's going to be. There's not one right or wrong way to approach blues guitar solos, or any guitar solos for that matter, but it's always good to have an understanding of various ways you can approach it, so that way you can be a more complete musician and be able to convey whatever it is you're trying to say musically in a variety of different musical environments. So I think the first way to start off a blues solo, the first way to approach it, is with either a hard, aggressive attitude or a soulful attitude, both of which are demonstrated in this video clip of Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, that is so awesome. That's exactly what I'm talking about when I mean that the initial part of your solo, the approach, the entrance, if you will, that dictates how the rest of the solo is going to go. We didn't listen to all of it, but you can understand where it was going from there. So I would say that was more on the aggressive side. It had some soulful elements, but I consider aggressive to be a little bit higher gain, maybe more harder pick attack, things like that. So I'll do my best to demonstrate an aggressive entrance and then a more soulful entrance. So I think you could hear the difference between the more aggressive attack and the soulful approach. Both of them kind of have the same elements in that they are not too busy, but one of them definitely has that high dynamic aggressive feel than the latter one that has the more dialed back approach, kind of leaning back. The next bluesy approach I have dubbed the instant climax, and this is perfectly demonstrated by Eric Clapton in a live take of Crossroads. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory here. You forget about all the building of the tension and release and go straight for the jugular on this kind of approach. So as you can hear, complete lack of any type of building of an arc to the solo. It's just straight to the top. So sometimes my favorite blues songs are like that, just so much energy. It's just that guitar solo is coming, here it is, boom, and there's the climax immediately, and then it just continues through the entire solo. Yeah, that's a great approach as well. The final one is the rhythmic attack. So you start off your solo kind of playing off the band per se, and not necessarily putting the spotlight on yourself, if that makes sense. Going from a very moderate transition from rhythm into lead. And one of my favorite guitar players who does this type of stuff is Jimi Hendrix. You know, he was known for combining rhythm and lead stuff a lot. For example, Little Wing, The Wind Cries Mary, Hey Joe, that kind of stuff. But one of my favorite blues guitar players who's overlooked in this conversation sometimes, depending on whether you like him or not, John Mayer. He's an amazing rhythm guitar player. You can think what you want about him from the pop culture perspective, but there are a few performers, and I do mean performers. I think that's an important element of a blues man. There are a few that can really match his skills rhythmically, and I think one of the best things about John Mayer's playing is that he is inherently a rhythm guitar player, I think. He's a really great blues player too, but his rhythm is really what drew me to him when I first started listening to him. So check out this rhythmic attack. So the rhythmic attack is definitely going to be aided by the use of triads, which is the most simple chord, and it's also a very bluesy chord. It fits nice into blues. So say we have a chord progression that's A to G to D, back to A. We can use triads to transition from our rhythm chords to a rhythmic solo entrance. So the solo could go anywhere from that point, whether you want to go into an aggressive stealing eventually, or keep it rhythmic, or immediately climax. I don't know, whatever you want to do. There's no rules. That's the best part about music. But these are definitely some approaches to bear in mind the next time you are trying to compose or improvise a blues solo, because of course the blues comes from within. So approaches will only take you so far, but hopefully this was able to fill in some of the gaps that you may have had in your own playing.